Hello, hello. There we go. Hello. Oops. There's the boy. Okay, I'm back. And I'm going to turn that down a little bit. Or did I turn up my... That's right, I turned up my headset a little bit. Sorry. Trying to remember what audio settings I changed and what I haven't. So today I figured I'm going to go ahead and make Magnemite because I've been plotting out a new story and I think I need something for a little factory setting. So Magnemite's going to be the first boy I'm making here. I've already gone ahead and done like the height and all this stuff. And the vulnerabilities and the type resistances. And oh boy, this is the most type resistances I've made on a Pokemon so far. I straight up couldn't use the it is uncommon that it wouldn't be resisting something. It literally resists more things than are both normal and super effective against it. Almost twice over. It resists 11, actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so yeah, exactly twice over, if you count the immunity. It is literally resistant to or immune half of the types in the game. So looking at that, this is only meant to be like just a little guy kind of maybe roaming around if I need to throw in an extra encounter to like pad out for some time maybe, or more than likely a minion of some sort. So he's only going to be 200 points. He's not going to be very strong. But from this already, he's actually going to be pretty tanky. Or I guess I shouldn't be misgendering the Magnemite. But yeah, this is why Steel is my favorite type, because I really like tanky things in games. But a tanky minion is a bit of a problem sometimes, because it can end up wasting a lot of time, potentially. Especially if you throw in a lot of them. So that tells me that Magnemite needs to be... Well, it's going to be tanky by default at this point. I can give it very little health. I'll probably end up dropping its health a little bit, actually, just to make it a little bit more frail. But I can't... It depends on how I want to play it out attack-wise. I know one thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to put in... Actually, I'll go ahead and just do it now. List, new separator. Okay. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give it Zap Cannon and Lock On. So this is just a regular aid, and it's just going to boost Magnemite's accuracy here. There was somebody who I was running a game, and I had a Clink using Lock On one of the player characters, and somebody in the chat was like, oh, Lock On Zap Cannon? That person was exactly correct. I was about to hit one of the player characters with a max power, like at the hard cap of the campaign, but with lowered accuracy attack, if they hadn't immediately pounced on it and stunned it with a multi-attack. So, Zap Cannon. And we'll go ahead and put this right up to 12. Really strong hit. Electric attack. Oh, I forgot to put charges on Lock On. Oh well. We'll go ahead and just 4 uses of it. Don't want him belting out too many of these. And then... Part of me wants to put on the half range modifier just to make it work better at long range, but then again, at the same time, this really isn't meant to be like... This attack is, you know, classified, or it's made special by its inaccuracy, so I probably shouldn't do that. What I will do is armor piercing. So this is max damage attack that is doing even more. So I'm gonna use the armor piercing instead of paralysis, though. Well, should I do that? Add modifier. 4. You know what? Let's go ahead and just we'll throw paralysis on here. Speed and dex. Ooh, now I can do a special thing. So what I like to do for add-on effects, well, typically what I do is I add the requires a roll limitation. That means that in order to even use this move, you have to roll 3d6 and get underneath a certain level here. So for most Pokemon attacks, you'd be looking at like, I think it's technically like a 6 or less is like the 10% range, but 8 or less is as low as the Foundry goes. So that's what I end up doing. And that's like a 30% chance. I think that might be like 40. I'm not sure. As many times as I looked at the chart, I really should just have that memorized by now, but I don't. I'm not going to do that for Zap Cannon anyway, because it's guaranteed paralysis as soon as Zap Cannon hits. So instead, oh yeah, linked. So this means that it's Zap Cannon. Whoops. So basically, this attack is linked to Zap Cannon. Whenever Zap Cannon is used, this attack is used too, but it must be used. This attack cannot be used. Technically, the paralysis here is being classified as a separate attack. Cannot be used unless Zao Cannon is being used. Zap Cannon. There we go. And you know what? Let's go ahead. We'll make this a really hefty paralysis too, just to really hammer home the point of like, hey, don't let this thing hit you with Zap Cannon, and it's gonna have to be like stacking up every single turn. Can I write in this? Oh, I can. Okay. So then basically what I'm gonna do here is every like 3 Magnemites I throw out, let's say, I'm probably not going to use more than 3 in a turn or 3 in a fight, because like I said, tanky minions tend to just slow things down without adding a whole bunch of dynamics to the fight. Is dynamism to the fight. There we go.
Yes, JCPenney understands.
Haven't ever used that word out loud before.
On Friday, July 3rd, fuel up and
yeah, so basically this is sort of the alternate choice here for his moves.
Yes, JCPenney.
Which, so, you know, assuming there's 3 Magnemite out on the field, 2 of them are going to have whatever I put in here later. The other one is going to have the lock-on Zap Cannon combo, and that's pretty much what it's going to be locked into. So then that throws in a little bit of variation in the minions and helps to break up that slowness from them being tanky. In my stream I did with the other streamers, I had a whole bunch of Behemoth and Elgium, and I probably should have pointed out that I did this, but I did do the same thing where some of them had like, basically there were 2 different move sets on the Elgium. Some of them had Thunderbolt, Dark Pulse, and something else, and then the rest had it was Energy Ball, Psychic or Psybeam, Energy Ball, Psybeam, and Light Screen. They still all They still all died. It's too fast to actually need to use the light screen, but you know, the option was there. Okay, so alternate done. Actually, also what I'm going to do here is custom adder, and then I'm just going to put in negative 45 points. So this is just going to count for negative 30. How much? Whoopsie daisy. Yeah, it doesn't like the custom adder having a 0 in here. So it will fight me to like have a number. So if I select this and hit backspace, it'll kind of fight me a little bit. Well, okay, I can't hit okay. It's screwing me with me. It's messing with me. Let's see. So basically these just aren't going to count yeah, okay, see, I hit the negative key right there and it just moved my cursor over one. So I gotta write 75, then go back and make it negative. And that is not... Okay, hold on a second. Let's just... Okay, it's 60. Yeah, because it's trying to... There we go. Yeah, it doesn't want to, the adder goes onto the base price before the addition, the advantages and limitations, so it's messing with the math here a little bit. I'll just say this is attack as well, because type resistances can resist, like, drain effects, so that will actually count as well. Though actually thinking about it, ground is the only type that resists electric, isn't it? I think it is. Don't know, don't quote me on that. But yeah, basically in-game, how this is going to play out is use lock on to boost his own accuracy stats, both OCV and OMCV. And then blast out with the zap cannon, and then, you know, calculate that thing's full effects, and then go back, attack with the paralysis, but what I'm gonna have to do is just like roll that as a regular attack, like start with the attack roll, but then regardless of whether it hits or not, I'm sending the effects through because the previous attack hit, and this is the one that's actually making the attack roll here. A little bit of, you know, I'm doing things that the Foundry isn't necessarily meant to do, but you can force it, and it's made so you can force it into doing things like this, because, you know, their edge cases like this are pretty common, honestly. Now, let's see here. Let's go ahead and, before I forget again, let's just do skills. It's basically a little robot buddy, so I'm gonna go for electronics. Where's mechanics? There's mechanics. Survival. Urban. And you know what? Just to make it a little bit more scary, we'll give it teamwork. And that'll help push up the threat level a little bit. Because so basically, what teamwork means is 2 players can delay their turns so that they can take place on the same turn, basically, and then they attack at the same time. And because they're attacking at the same time, their total stun damage is calculated together for, like, overcoming Constitution in order to inflict a stun status. So if, like, there's one really big guy and you can't knock him out, you can't stun him, he's really fast, you gotta knock him out, or else he's gonna turn some poor character into chunky salsa the next turn. You can use a teamwork roll, work together, hit him at the same time, and hopefully overcome his Constitution. Oh yeah, and then systems operation. This is for like working cameras and stuff. Are there cameras in the factory? Maybe. Haven't made that yet. Now, let's see. Oh yeah, very low health. I'll go ahead and leave the body at 10 because I don't want Magnemite getting killed. I don't want, I had things getting killed left and right in the climax of my last game, but they were a bunch of really bad jerks. It basically turned into Temple of Doom. Like, things got bad. What I am going to do is I'm going to turn the stun down to like 16. So this thing is very frail. But I'm going to turn the elemental defense up a little bit. I'm just going to put that into the... Actually, Yeah, I'll leave it at 14, I think. And then I'll go ahead and put the... resistant protection up a bit higher. So my average is around 18 total. So the resistant protection plus the physical defense is 18. Absolute, like, total maximum is 30 total, with 25 being the soft cap. So dead on average defense, with maybe slightly higher resistant protection, and then slightly low elemental defense, or energy defense, I'm sorry. I'll leave recovery here. It's not going to be using any endurance, so I'm not going to buff that at all. What I am going to do is I'm going to sell off the running, and I'm going to do what I did for, Rotom Mo, and I'm going to buy flight with the points that I... got by selling off the running. And Magnemite is super duper slow, so I'm only going to go ahead and put this up to like 14, I think, whereas my usual is 20. So this thing is very slow. This does introduce an interesting possibility where the weakness to ground moves might not come into effect because it's floating. A lot of ground moves just won't be able to hit it regardless, but that's sort of the weirdness we're hitting here, going from a turn-based RPG strategy game to tabletop, little more simulatory role-playing game. Anyway, there's always Bone Club and stuff. I always say Bone Club should hit flying Pokemon anyway. And here's a perfect example of why. How else do I want to move these? Attack. I mean, I'm just going to leave that at 10 because 2d6 is... As far as my campaign is concerned, 2d6 is literally nothing. Dexterity, I'm going to put that down to like a 7. As I said, really slow. Constitution, I will put that decently high. Being so slow, it's going to get hit by pretty much everything, so it needs to at least have the chance to soak a hit in order to even get to act on its turn, basically. Intelligence, that's going to go up because, it's a living robot magnet thing. Put a couple points in ego. Well, do I have points to spend? No, I'll leave that there. Now I'll just leave OCV and DCV as they are. Like I said, I've got these basically how I want them for the campaign. That's not going to stop me from debating it each and every time that I come through this section with each and every character, because that is the joy of this program is, oh boy, all the options are at my fingertips. Speed, I'm really, you know what? That'll help offset the there being so many of them, and you know what? I'll go ahead and give him extra constitution just because of it. So really tanky, will probably survive multiple hits, but clearly isn't going to get as many turns as the other players. And you know what? Actually, because I've done that, I'll go ahead and put another 2 points into both of the physical and energy defense, just to balance it out a little bit. So there's that, and skills, and we've still got 80 points for powers. When I saw how many resistances it had, and I saw this ate up like 80 points all on its own, so I was very worried I wouldn't have like any I wouldn't have any like space to put anything else. So what's, oh, before I do anything else though, actually, abilities. Okay, Magnet Pull prevents enemies from being able to run away. There's an interesting way we can do that. Okay, first thing I'm gonna do though is Sturdy. What I like to do for that, this is another reason why it's going to be tanky, is because I do Sturdy as damage negation. What this is doing is this is just straight up taking dice out of the attacks that are hitting it before they even hit it. So like a 6d6 blast would get reduced to a 5d6 blast. Killing attacks are effectively 3 dice per dice, so that would reduce a 1d6 killing attack to a 1/2 d6 killing attack. Really strong. I've got a player who is playing like a little robot boy, a goopy person made out of nanites with amnesia, so they don't even know if they're a boy or a girl, honestly. They have damage negation as like their primary defense, and they've taken some pretty hefty hits thanks to this. This can actually like really, it's not necessarily a huge chunk of the damage, but this definitely helps take the edge off, especially if you've got even halfway decent defense, which this guy does, and then he's got the type advantages. Yeah, these things are going to be tanky little buddies, which is another reason why they needed to be slow. And then let's see. Oh yeah, Magnet Pull. That was going to be the other one I was going to do. Drain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Flight, Teleportation, just to cover my bases. 3 characters or effect. Oh, actually, I'll do Leaping 2. And 4. And it's only going to be a 1d6 with the limitation, conditional power. Does not work in extremely common circumstances. That extremely common circumstance being the enemy Pokemon isn't Steel. So this is just straight up a drain that eats enemy Pokemon's movement speed, basically. Let's see. How do I want to do this? So the most lore accurate thing I could do about it would be to put no range onto it and then an area of effect. So it would basically just be a bubble around Magnemite that's automatically draining. That's not the most convenient way to do it, and I don't necessarily want to do it in an inconvenient way because I'm going to be having 3 of these guys running around on the field at once. So how do I want to do this? I think I'll just go ahead and let it be like a regular attack, basically. So something that, a little Magnemite here can just use as a regular attack, more or less. Just an extra bonus attack. But while I was looking through that, I remembered I didn't finish Zap Cannon all the way. Another good thing about this, good thing about being able to go back and do everything with this program is that I can just fix things. So I want it to be do I want it to be inaccurate, or do I want it to be The alternative is that I can switch it to using offensive mental combat value, which is used for like aiming psychic attacks and stuff. When I made Mewtwo, I should have boosted this a bit, and when I went back and kind of fixed them up a little bit, I did. So basically, it either uses half of the OCV after it's buffed, but then you know what? I made it so that lock-on boosts OMCV as well, so I'm just going to go ahead and swap it over to using this smaller OMCV number. Blast, ED. So, alternate combat value uses OMCV against DCV. And this is a +0 advantage because it's technically an advantage because OMCV is cheaper, but then again, at the same time, most characters don't buy OMCV, so then it wouldn't affect their DCV either. So like, most characters don't buy OMCV, so this would be a smaller stat, even though it is cheaper. So like this is basically a flavor change more than anything else. So that's why it's +0. And it's handy for us because then we can have Zap Cannon 3d6 or Zap Cannon 3 OMCV versus the usual 3 DCV that an enemy has. This means that's a flat 50-50 chance to hit. Actually, sorry, that's still a 60% chance to hit. Because the calculation is like 11 minus blah blah blah. So technically, you're trying to roll an 11 minus. If the OCV and the DCV are equal, you're trying to roll 11 minus. So if I put OMCV down, now I'm trying to roll a 10 or less. So now it's 50-50. So what abilities are we gonna give this little guy? I don't... So, my thoughts are immediately either give him, like, weak little attacks, like Thundershock and Flash Cannon, and just kind of call it there. Or throw on like Thunder Wave and maybe Supersonic or Screech or something, you know, turn him into a debuffer, basically. Since he's a minion, I don't want to do too much with him because variety is power and versatility is power. So let's just go ahead and we'll start with Thundershock and Flash Cannon, and then we'll see where we end up from there. I might throw Screech on there, because Screech is a pretty easy one to handle. So let's just go ahead and do a Blast. Shot. And let's see, 66 is the base, so we'll just give it a little base level attack. Not hitting anything too hard in particular. Actually, you know what? Let's... Extra d6 is for stab. Extra d6 plus 1 is for stab. And we'll just give it 16 charges, because that's the flat, like, 0. This is not an advantage or a disadvantage. This isn't helping you or hurting it number. Smaller than that, it starts becoming a limitation. Larger than that, it starts becoming a huge advantage. Especially when you combo it with auto fire and it just like starts belting out multiple attacks, because you know each auto fire shot eats a charge. So if you have 16,000 charges, you effectively have a weapon you never have to reload, and you could, you know, auto fire 10, just Thundershock, put that above there, and now my first instinct is to make Blast a ranged, or is to make a Flash Cannon a ranged killing attack, just to differentiate it from Thundershock. Doi. Here's what I do. Drain. Come on, D. There we go. Okay, so now the way I like to do paralysis on moves, also that's an add-on where it has a chance to go off, unlike Zap Cannon where it's guaranteed to go off. In addition to the requires a roll, we're making that the 8-. In addition to requires a roll, we're also going to link it to Thundershock. Yes, link to Thundershock. But then I'm not going to put charges on it. This is basically going to be a little bonus extra here that Magnemite can just sort of add to its Thundershock if it wants to try and paralyze it. If it doesn't want to try and paralyze the target, it doesn't have to spend the endurance. If it does want to, then, you know, it's got to spend endurance to do it. That's just how I like doing that, because otherwise coordinating charges between multiple attacks just causes a little bit of a slowdown in the game that I just don't want. I try to streamline everything as much as possible so that I can make everything else as big as possible, and, you know, I can have as much content crammed into my typical 3.5 to 4 hour session as physically possible. And man, did I say physically possible like 3 times there? Is it even physically possible for me to say it anymore? I don't know, it just doesn't seem physically possible. Tex pulled that man's skull out and beat him to death with it. That doesn't seem physically possible. That's what he said. This doesn't seem physically possible. Does Flash Cannon have a bonus effect? Or is it just... 10% chance of lowering special defense. Okie dokie. We can do that too. So there we go. There's something a little bit to differentiate Flash Cannon from Thundershock. Otherwise, I was just going to make it an 8, which is on the weaker side, but still decently powerful. You know what? 8d6 plus 1, whatever. Modifier. And I was also going to give it fewer charges. We'll go ahead and just give it the 8 there. Let's see. Oh, right. See. Steel type attack. And we're going back to the drain, and we're just doing the same thing. But we're going to do with Drain ED. Flash Cannon, Spedef, Drop. Limitation, linked to Flash Cannon. And let's... I don't need multiple thingies because it's not hitting multiple thingies. I do need requires a roll though. And that puts me at 210. Whoops, a little strong, but I was originally thinking of putting Magnemite at 250 until I saw how many things it resisted. So honestly, I don't mind this so much, being 210. And like, you know, I've got a couple reasons. I could justify like another 20 points there if I wanted to, but I'm not. Let me see. Is there any? Oh, yeah. Okay. Actually, something I want to do in the skills. I am gonna go ahead and spend a few more points than this. You may have saw me like pause there while I was making Flash Cannon, and I kind of hovered over the no range modifier. Yeah, I recently had an issue where my ranged characters just couldn't hit a shot because they had like no ability to overcome the range penalty, and it just was an absolute pain in my ass, basically. they were hitting from too far. They were trying to hit from too far away. The arena was very big. I really like making big arenas. So yeah, things just didn't work out so well for them. They just couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. So to offset that, we have penalty skill levels. These are skill levels to buy off penalties. Penalties like specific negative OCV modifier with all attacks, negative OCV rain modifier. So now when I load this into Foundry, it will see range in this box somewhere and be like, oh, this is for calculating out this is for taking stuff off the range penalty. And now I'll go ahead and make it 4 points. Actually, make it 6. So basically, do I have an easy picture of the range penalty to put on here for us? Where's my screenshot folder? I know I've got that in there somewhere. Okay. Combat modifiers. There we go. This is my buddy's character sheet for his lizard man. Spit and Venom is his actual name, but we've literally never called him that. He's just Slick. And yeah, so here's the range penalty, basically. So -6 means that Magnemite here can shoot out to 64 meters before it actually cares about it. And then 65 and on, it's a -8, or it's a -2 instead of a -8. It's literally, the penalty skill level is just is canceling out numbers here. So actually, seeing that it goes that far out, I'm going to go ahead and lower it back down to the 4. So 222, not particularly strong. He is particularly tanky, but he doesn't hit very hard. The biggest disadvantage that he inflicts on the players probably here is the flash cannon. If this hits and then it gets the sped F drop, this could potentially snowball, which it's very unlikely to, but the fact that it could is enough to make this little guy feel threatening, even though objectively it's just a weak little ball that can't do a whole lot. And then, like I said, for extra roughage here, we've got lock-on Zap Cannon and the Zap Cannon Paralysis as the little bonus for one of them to be sitting in the back, just lobbing out attacks, absolutely messing up people's day. Now, I think as a bonus to this, while I'm here, I may as well make a second Pokemon. And I have a perfect little starting point here. So now I'm going to make a Magneton who is more or less just going to be at the same level as Magnemite here. Well, not the same level of Magneton, sorry. Same level as a player. Clear that. Magneton. There we go. Yeah, so this is, so, you know, there'll maybe be 2 or 3 Magnemite working together, and then we'll have a Magneton. And it'll just be a little bit stronger. Still going to be super tanky. I think I'm going to leave it just as slow. This thing isn't going to be a boss, I don't think. I'm going to be using this as a minion, because if it's equal character points to a player character, then stands to reason I would need 4 of these guys to stand up against 4 player characters. Okay. And then if I boost the speed, also, the problem with that is that then the teamwork skill, it can't combo with the Magnemite as well, is the other thing. That means that basically the Magnemite, one of the two, either the Magnemite or the Magneton trying to work with the other, is going to have to be like skipping its turn and then holding its action for a while. And normally that's okay if you're just holding within the same phase. But then different speeds is going to be knocking them out of the same phase, and that's just going to cause I'm worried it could potentially snowball into extra, not complexity on my part, but just really making them less effective than they otherwise could be. Then, just putting a speed tax on Magneton here. It's slow anyway, it floats, it's not particularly fast. I will go ahead and increase the floating on magnetism up to 20 though, just to put him up in the average. And now let's see, I'll go ahead and put I'll leave the defense alone, I think. But what I will do is I will put the stun back up to 22, I think. It's supposed to be... Yeah, where did I have Magnemite? It was like 16. Yeah, 10 and 20 is pretty good. It's very low health, honestly. Actually, looking at the health, let's just go ahead and do that. And a couple more points there. There we go. So, still really tanky. Even more tanky, honestly, and it has more health. And I'll go ahead and... Should I leave the lock-on combo on here? Or should I potentially have the I'll leave the lock-on combo as a possibility here. And maybe I'll give it another... Nah, I'll just leave this. Because like I said, I'll need multiples of it against the player characters. So, this gives me more options. More options is nice, especially when I'm trying to, throw something together, because, maybe my players have done something that I haven't expected. Rare Coil, that's a fun name. How heavy is it? 60 kilograms. How does it go from 6 to 60? How does it go from 6 to 60 when multiplied by 3? The height makes sense. It goes from 1/3 of a meter to a meter. Do they get bigger? I guess they get bigger. Is it the extra screws? Are the extra screws adding 30 pounds? I don't know. Interesting. They gotta get bigger. They gotta get way bigger. I'll go ahead and give him some endurance. Just to, give him a little bit more opportunity to keep throwing out these paralysis stuff. I'll go ahead and leave it at the 7 too. Well, put up to 9 because it is much speedier and I'm already kind of dicking it over in the literal speed department, so I may as well give it some dex. Yeah, I think this 2 more points there. It's already too tanky. Well, I don't know if it's too tanky, but it's already pretty tanky. It's tanky to a degree that scares me. So, my instincts are screaming at me. 20 is really low. Increase that, moron. But it has so many ways of reducing the damage on it that I just should not do that. So moving on, what is analytic? Is this boosts the power of oh. Okay. And I don't want to deal with that because this is one of those things that is, if I were doing it in person with dice game, relatively easy to add. Not in person, it kind of causes a little bit of trouble. Actually, I probably could how do I add, how do I add this as a power? I've never, 1 range damage class, I've never added that as a power, and that just occurred, that's literally what that is. So as martial arts, you can also just straight up add damage die. Which is occurring to me that I probably, instead of giving Dragonite 35 strength, I should have just given it extra damage classes, because I'm pretty sure these are cheaper too, right? It's only 4 points, so not that much. It's literally 1 point per extra dice of damage, where just adding extra strength is 5 points per dice of damage. Is there a martial arts? There isn't, right? No. Perks. No, it wouldn't be perks, it'd be talents. If it's what I'm thinking is. Deadly blow, but does... In a really old edition of the Foundry, Deadly Blow didn't work. And again, this guy is just a minion. The thing about minions, don't make them too complex, and I'm spiraling into the complexity. I just need to give this guy extra damage, basically. That's all I need to do, is just fill out the rest of these points with extra damage. So let's go ahead and upgrade. It doesn't learn Thundershot or Thunderbolt naturally. Interesting. Discharge. It's Discharge, though. You know what? Let's give it Discharge. That's easy enough. And let's see. It's the same strength as Flash Cannon. And also, add modifier. Area of effect. I'll make it a radius, and I'll just make it a 4-meter radius. So if a couple of enemies are standing next to each other, it can just hit an area. This is basically a grenade now. And then... So I should go ahead and give it something a little... Just a little something to make it a little special. Could give it light screen, but I've given a ton of things light screen. And again, it's already so tanky that I don't want to be giving it more defense and more health and slowing things down. Now, if the system worked in a way that I could add damage to energy moves easily by like increasing presence or intelligence, then I could make Charge Beam, and that would be really fun to be basically like hitting it with an aid that boosts electric attacks. The Foundry supposedly works for stuff like that, but I haven't gotten it to work for stuff like that. And right now, while I'm on stream, isn't the time to be experimenting with that. Volt Switch might be a fun idea. Okay, so I've got two options here. I could go for Volt Switch and give it an attack with a linked teleportation power, so that whenever it uses Volt Switch, it gets a free teleport of like 20 meters or so. Not sure if that's how the rules are really supposed to work, but that's just sort of how I've been using them. And honestly, it's pretty nice for making attacks like more dynamic and stuff. The other option is to give it Thunder and just have a really strong hit here. Just something to make them a little scary, and then I can throw on the same like inaccurate bonus that I was going to put on Zap Cannon. I think I'm going to go for his Volt Switch though, because that's more interesting. Another blast. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna make it a teleportation move linked to Thundershock. So whenever it uses Thundershock, it can have the opportunity to use Volt Switch and teleport itself around somewhere. And we'll just make it 20 meters because that's a decent amount. Decent amount of space. Add modifier and trigger. Activating the trigger is an action that takes no time, so you can just do it after an attack. You can do this whenever you want. You can do it, well, it'll activate whenever the trigger activates, if it's a 0 phase action, and then you can only do it like at the beginning of your phase or in the middle of your phase. Action that takes no time. If whatever happens that activates the trigger happens, you have the option to do it just whenever you want. So, teleport when using an electric move. And yeah, it's set trigger. There's only one thing. Trigger requires, let's say, a half phase action to reset. So you can go ahead and you can teleport, but then you can't do it again until you take at least half of your phase to reset the volt switch, basically. And I will just go ahead and say that this is 4 charges. So a little bit of extra mobility. It's slow, but it hits decently hard. And if you're not paying attention, it can just pop you. Or it could just, pop around and get behind you or something. And actually, I will go ahead and increase the paralysis and the sped F drop in strength just a little bit. Just something to make it more threatening. Because we've still got extra points here. I could just give it Thunder Wave to slow down the player. But again, I default to Thunder Wave a lot, and it's another one of those things that risks slowing stuff down because you're literally slowing the players down, which slows their damage output, which makes the defenses stronger. Really good if you've got a situation where you've got one player, or where you've got multiple players versus one enemy. Not so good if this is somebody that you're planning on throwing in to balance out the odds and have as a minion. Swift might be an idea there. You know what? Let's go ahead and just give him the thunder anyway, and then it can have 2 things that pair with Volt Switch. Let's go ahead and make this a killing attack ranged. Thunder, thunder, thunder. So 3d6 on a killing attack is equivalent to 9d6 on a regular attack. So 3d6 plus 1, this is a 10. The soft cap is 12. You know what? Actually, because I'm going to give this very few charges, and I'm going to throw inaccurate on it. So it should be hitting really hard as a result. So, because I'm literally going to give this thing 3 charges. And then we're throwing on inaccurate as well. So it's only going to be at half accuracy too. And there we go, 303. When I was first starting, I would have been much more anal about lining these up perfectly. But as I've gone through and checked the actual characters made by Hero Systems official authors, they have all sorts of wacky numbers. You'll have 281, 378, 467, 309, all sorts of stuff. So really, the exact total points here isn't the big thing with balancing. It's figuring out the level of the attacks that you want to have, the level of the defenses, and making sure that that's even. With extra points, what they tend to do a lot is after a certain point, they just sort of add on extra utility, which is another strength in and of its own. But this has pretty decent utility. Oops, that is not thunder. Oopsie. Okay, so and I'm going to go ahead and put that at the top, so whenever I open up the attack, this is going to be staring me right in the face, telling me to use it like the Green Goblin mask. And then for the alternative attacks, I should probably put something down here just to You know, because if I throw all because basically what my idea is, I'm going to be throwing all of these away to swap out for these. Well, instead of adding extra attacks, whatever Magneton gets this attack package is just going to get an even stronger lock-on. How about that? Almost guaranteed to hit. And we'll go ahead and push it over the hard cap, actually. 1 pip. And we'll give it a couple extra charges. We'll take that pip off, actually, because there we go. So much stronger lock on, equal hit, but it can belt this out much more often. And then I'll also make the paralysis just a little bit stronger. Just a little. There we go. And here I am being anal about the cost again. Let's put up to 45. No. Really? 43 points up base. Interesting. Oh, it didn't update Zap Cannon. That's funny. Okay, there we go. So yeah, just we have Magneton. We have Magnemite and bigger Magnemite. Magnemite and bigger Magnemite, effectively. I have it. Just want to make sure I'm not saving over it. I've done that a few times, and that's always awkward, saving over a Pokemon that I didn't want to save over. But yeah, so here we are. Don't let it get hit by a ground move, but otherwise, pretty tanky little guy. Capable of some real damage, but very slow. But that's okay, because he's going to have his friends, and they're all going to be shocking you. And speaking of friends, I think that's it for us today, friends. Jeez, that was corny. Like and subscribe. See you later. Bye-bye. Get out of my house!